We'll get started in just a couple of minutes. Seeing if anyone else is going to get on. Alright, so let's go ahead and get this thing started. We're going to start with level 1. Level 1, you guys are on chapter 8, which is the law of the bad apple. Alright, chapter 8, the law of the bad apple. Alright, it says, rotten attitudes ruin a team, because this thing is all about attitudes today, and that's everything we're going to be talking about. So, again, rotten attitudes ruin a team. It says, good attitudes among players do not guarantee a team's blank. Good attitudes do not guarantee a team's success. Better. Success. But bad attitudes guarantee its failure. It's very self-explanatory. If you're on a team and you have a bad attitude, the team is most likely going to fail. Why? Because everyone else is going to have a bad attitude with that other person. So if you have a good attitude, then the team may succeed, right? It has a better chance because you guys are being positive and you have good attitudes. All right, next one. 5 truths about attitudes. 5 truths about attitudes. Number 1, attitudes have the power to lift up or tear down a team. Great talent and good attitudes result in a great blank. This is team. Team. Yeah, if you have a great talent and good attitudes, you're gonna have a great team, right? If you guys are being positive and supportive of one another, everything's gonna keep going. Everything's going to be good. All right, number 2, an attitude compounds when exposed to others. An attitude compounds when when exposed to others. Attitudes are blank. Attitudes are contagious. Contagious. Attitudes are contagious. All right, so this is very, very important, all right, to know. Okay. Cool. All right, so if you have a good attitude, other people are gonna have a good attitude. But if you have a bad attitude, the same thing's gonna happen. People are also gonna have a bad attitude. It's kind of how it works. So if you want to have like people around you be positive and supportive and all of that, you have to also have a good attitude. Does that make sense? So if we want other people to kind of follow us and have that good attitude just like us, then we have to have a good attitude as well. Otherwise, they're not going to be very supportive and all of that. So, number 3, bad attitudes compound faster than good ones. Bad attitudes are more contagious than good attitudes. This is very important to know, right? If you have a good attitude and someone else is not being very nice, well, what's more likely to happen? You're more likely to be like, well, this guy's being rude. I'm not going to be nice to him. And then you have a bad attitude towards that person as well, right? Well, that's how it works. Good attitudes are a lot harder to get caught than bad attitudes. Bad attitudes are way more contagious. So that's why we have to be careful and stay positive no matter what. Number 4, attitudes are subjective, so identifying a wrong one can be difficult. Bad attitudes are the result of blank. They're the result of selfishness. Selfishness. So this is very important to know, because whenever someone has a bad attitude, most of the time it's because they're being selfish. They're only thinking about themselves, no one else, right? That is, so someone that has a bad attitude, they're going to be like, well, that's my phone. Why are you on it? Or, hey, why are you here? Or, they're thinking of only themselves, not other people. So that's what's happening there. They're being selfish, right? So if we have a bad attitude, it's because we're being selfish about something. So like if mom and dad are like, hey, can you do this for me? And you're like, why? Well, that's having a bad attitude, right? Well, that's where we have to be careful. All right. So if mom and dad ask us to do something, we just say yes, or say yes, or go say yes, ma'am, yes, sir, or yes, mom, yes, dad. Then we do it. That way we're always doing the right thing, right? We're always making sure that everything we do kind of goes in line with what we're teaching here. And number 5, rotten attitudes left alone ruin everything. That's why bad attitudes are bad, because if they're not fixed, guess what happens? Everything gets ruined. Everything starts kind of falling and getting worse and worse and worse, and we don't want that. All right, so bad attitudes must be addressed for the team to be blank. This is successful. All right, successful. If you want to have a good team, a team that is successful, you have to get the bad attitudes out of there. You cannot have bad attitudes on your team, because again, they're contagious. So if you have a bad attitude on a team, well, everyone else is going to have that bad attitude as well. All right, so it also says, an attitude determines how an individual sees the world and interacts with other people. So again, if they have a bad attitude, most of the time, they're going to be pretty negative. They're not going to be wanting to, kind of help people. They're just going to be very negative about things like, why do I have to do this? Or, God, why is there anyone else that can do this? Or, well, why do I have to pay for it? Or anything kind of like that. That's where it comes into play. They're being selfish about something, so they're going to have a bad attitude about it. All right. Next thought, well, the teamwork thought says, your attitude determines the team's attitude. It's attitude twice there. So your attitude determines the team's attitude. So if you have a bad attitude, guess what? The rest of the team's going to have a bad attitude too. That's how that works. That's why we don't have any bad attitudes here at the karate school. It's because if we had bad attitudes here, well, that doesn't happen, so we don't have to worry about it. All right, and becoming a better team member. So this is for you guys to think about and write down on the bottom of your page. It says, how is your attitude? Do you have a good or a bad one? Do you believe the team wouldn't succeed without you? And then the last part of that is, do you have a hard time admitting your mistakes? Go ahead and write down what you think for level 1. What do you guys think? Think about it. And then write it down. Good. All right. And other than that, level 1, that is going to be everything for you guys today. Thank you so much for joining me. If you need any of the answers, go to YouTube and watch the video on there. You can kind of slow down if you need to, so you can write better. All right, but other than that, that's going to be everything for you guys. Have a good afternoon, level 1. Bye. All right. And now, let's do this thing. So Felix, you're good to go, sir. All right, so level 2. We are on the law of victory, right? So this chapter is very important because as a leader, well, you have to be able to lead your team to victory, right? You can't just accept defeat. You can't do any of that, right? We have to be victorious as leaders. So it says leaders find a way for the team to win. Victorious leaders don't accept blank. I've said it already today. Victorious leaders don't accept defeat. Right? Because they're victorious. They always win. They don't need defeat because they're always winning. It's very important. Victorious leaders don't accept defeat. Next one. Whew. Sorry. All right. So 3 components of victory. Number 1, unity of team. So the team is together, right? It says the team must share a unified blank. We talked about this last week with our leaders, and the other thing that we had, it's vision. You have to have a unified vision. Without that unified vision to get behind, well, what's going to happen to the team? It's not going to be very effective. All right. So the way the only thing that I can kind of tie this into is demo team because, well, that's something I lead, just me. So unity of team. Well, that's pretty easy. What's the unified goal here? What's the vision? Well, it's putting on a performance for everyone at the graduation and making it look good, right? That's the whole point. So I know that if we looked good and we were together as a team, then they reached their goals. They did everything they were supposed to, and we were victorious. But if they were not very good, right? They were not together as a team. They were not very powerful. They weren't in time with the music, those kind of things. Well, then we weren't very successful. All right, and that's where that comes in, that unity of team. Everyone must know what the dream is. Everyone must know what the goal is. Here at karate, it's very easy for us, right? The unified goal for us is black belt. All right, so as black belts in training, that's all you guys have to look for, that's the goal, right? Black belt. So number 2 is diversity in skill. Diversity of skill. It says the team must have a diversity of talents. This is very, very important because if everyone could do the same thing exactly the same, well then that's pretty boring and no one else can expand upon in different areas. A good example of that is me, Miss Ogle, and Mr. Churchman. We're not all the same people, right? The things that make me super excited about karate are not the same as Miss Ogle's, right? Like, I like the sparring. I love sparring. That's my favorite thing to do, all right? And then I also like the self-defense stuff where I get to take people out and, take them to the ground and all that stuff. That's fun to me, right? But to Ms. Ogle, doing forms and that kind of technical stuff, so making sure the chambers and re-chambers on the kicks, your stances, everything is perfected, that is what she likes to do, right? And then Mr. Churchma, he's a very good performer as well. He likes to, those deep, long stances that he has. And he's also really good at sparring as well. So we all have our different areas that we're good at. I'm also really good at teaching all of this leadership stuff. Why? Well, I've gone through all these books about 50 times. So I'm pretty knowledgeable about what's in these books, as well as other areas where I've had to be a leader, just like I'm teaching you guys to be. So with that, that's where the diversity of skills come into play, right? I can't do, if all of us were really good at one thing, then something else would kind of fall apart. And that's where, as a leader, you need to make sure your team is the same way. As a leader, if your team is all really good at one thing, but not the other, well then you need to find either someone that can do that other thing, or you need to get your teammates to be better at that other thing. And that leads into number 3. A leader dedicated to victory and raising players to their potential. The team must have a strong leader who brings the team together to succeed. This is very important. As a leader, if you can't grow with your team, if you can't grow your team to their best, their best, then that's not a very successful team. Your team should continue to grow and improve no matter what and keep going higher and higher. All right, and that's how that works. Now next point, bullet point underneath these three says victorious leaders keep fighting because they have no blank. Well, victorious leaders only have one plan, right? They don't have a second plan because their first plan works every time. So this is they don't have a plan B. And you're gonna write both words. Well, word and letter. But victorious leaders, we don't have a plan B. Why? Plan V. Well, plan B because we don't need one. We're victorious the very first time, right? We win no matter what. We do everything we can to make sure we're victorious. That's why we have no plan B. Now, application. The first one, does your team have a unified vision? If not, spend some time communicating a clear, single vision. If so, what is it? Well, I told you what our unified goal is, right? What is it? What is this thing? What crazy? This is our goal right here, right? I'm wearing it. What? Mind blown. Our unified vision is black belt, right? Black belt is our unified vision. So you guys can go ahead and write black belt down. And then the second question, it goes down a little bit. It says, give an example of a victorious leader in your life. How can you be like that person? This is very important. I want you to put whoever it is that you basically idolize or someone that you look up to that is victorious in your life. It could be anyone that you know, all right? Anyone. Like I have a friend that she started selling jewelry in elementary school when she was super young, and she was very successful at it, all right? So if you can do all that, then write down whoever is victorious, all right? And then after that, level 2, you are done. Have a good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining me. All right, and on to level 3. So let's go ahead and get this thing going. So remember, my level 3 students, everything that I am teaching you in this is technically from our instructor training manual, right? So you're learning things that can make you into an extremely excellent instructor, just like me, Miss Ogle, and Mr. Churchman. All right, but I'm going to be giving you guys examples of how you can do it as my helpers in class. So not as an instructor, but as a helper in class. All right, and today we're going over one of the biggest, best, most important rules that we have when we're teaching. If you can do this one thing, this one rule, give me a second. My allergies are acting up. Oh. All right, if you guys could do this one thing, you will have students wanting to work with you more often. You're going to have people that are going to like you more. All right, you're going to have students that want to be around you. So what this is number 8. It's practice correct praise. Now we used to call it praise correct praise. That's what we called it before. We learned that the praise before is not really needed, right? So it's just correct praise now. You don't have to do the first one anymore, all right? So it's just correct praise, correct praise. You're gonna correct and then praise them. So how this is gonna work, it says, implementing correct praise helps you correct your student in a positive manner. That positive is very important, right? We want to be positive no matter what. Always being positive with our students. We don't want to look at a student and be like, yeah, that sucked. Because if you say things like that to them, they're not going to want to come back. They're not going to want to do karate, right? But if we say, oh man, can you please go ahead and fix this or put this here or something like that, then they're going to be more likely to keep going, all right? So it also says, it's never okay to be critical unconstructively. So again, saying things like that's awful or no, that's wrong. Those kind of things are bad, right? I'm not telling anything about what needs fixed. I'm not letting them know like, hey, make sure you bring your back punch out. All right, Antonio, we are on chapter 8, or IETT number 8. Number 8. There's a fly. Awesome. Okay. So, yeah, we never want to be critical unconstructively. So we're not telling anyone they're bad. We're not telling anyone they're wrong or anything like that. Because if we do that, this will create resentment and cause your students to focus on their blank instead of their blank. So if we do that, right, if I say that's wrong or something like that, well, it's going to make you not want to work with me. And 2, it's going to cause you to focus on your weaknesses. Not your strengths. So if I'm being mean, basically, and not trying to give you any help, well, you're gonna be like, oh man, I can't do that anymore because I don't want to do that anymore because I'm really bad at it. And then you start thinking that your weaknesses are what define you, which is not true. Your weaknesses are something you can always improve. They're things that you can always grow, right? I want you to focus on your strengths because those are the things that define you. Those are the things that make you, you, right? And that's the same for every single student in the karate school. Even in basic class, there's things that I see that kids do that I'm like, yep, they're going to be really good at this, or yep, they're going to be really good at another thing. And not everyone is going to be good at the same stuff. And that's okay. Not everyone has to be good at the same stuff, right? I talked about it with level 2. Diversity is key. If everyone's good at the same thing, well, no one's going to be good at another thing. And that's not what we want. We want to be good at many different things. All right, so rule of 3 is correct a blank. Well, you got to correct a problem, right? That's the first thing. Find something that they're doing wrong. And, wow, pro. It's not pro, it's correct. Or, no, it's problem. I was right. P-R-O-B-L-E-M. Problem. You gotta correct the problem. So if someone's doing something wrong, you gotta be like, hey man, can you please fix this for me? Right? So if they're punching like this, they got a hole in their fist, right? We could be like, hey man, please close your fist. Right? And then when they start doing it, right? So they're doing combinations. And their very last one, their back punch has a hole in it, and then you're like, turn. Well, then as my helper, you can go up to them and be like, oh, make sure you close your hand all the way nice and tight, right? You guys have probably heard me say that before too, where I'm like, hey guys, make sure you're closing your hand, or oh, kick a little higher, right? I'm saying things like that. That's the correction. I'm correcting something that I see, all right? I'm seeing that there is something that could be improved upon. And number 2, praise the correction. So when they do it right, that's when we praise them, right? So if they do this, and then you say turn, and then they do the combination, and they do it on this side, well, don't praise them. They haven't done it yet, right? Only when they do it. So they do the move, and they're open here, and then you're like, oh man, please close that fist. So you turn, then they do it this side, and it's nice and tight, nice and closed. Then you can praise them. Then you say, oh man, excellent job. Give them a high five, fist bump, elbow, foot five, whatever it is. But you praise them for doing the thing right. All right, so that leads me into my third one, which is use appropriate blank contact. This is body contact. Use appropriate body contact. It's very important, right? So again, that's like a high five, fist bump. You got elbow, you got foot five, you got a pat on the back, all those kind of things. Those are positive, like appropriate body contact. That shows that they were doing it right? And it feels good when you like give them a fist bump. Makes them feel good on the inside, and that's what we want, right? So that is how that works. Now, going down the list, it's always important to use phrase correct, or correct praise, sorry. It's always important to use correct praise. It's always important to use correct praise. It makes the kid feel good for making a correction. No one should ever use the word blank. This is one word that we never use because it's the worst used word ever when we're doing these things. The word is but. B-U-T. Not B-U-T-T. Just one T. Because we're talking about the word, not the thing. Alright? So, but. Never use the word but, because when you use the word but, everyone thinks about the word, or what they say after that, right? So everyone thinks about the word, oh man, that's a great front punch, but, well, everything you say after but, well, they're not gonna like it, and that's all they're gonna focus on. They're only gonna focus on the bad, and we don't want that, right? So that's why we're like, hey man, fix this for me. Oh man, awesome job, but, well, that just ruined everything, right? That word just, pew, everything good out the window. We got to keep it all there, right? So, hey man, excellent job with that front punch. Keep it going, keep it going. You want to keep that hand tight. And then they do it, and you're like, oh yeah, awesome job, high five. And yeah, that's how it works. Cool. All right, now the next one says, make sure to only praise them after they make the correction. Never if they haven't. Stay with them till they get it. This is very important. Again, if someone is punching like this, and then you correct them, and then they're still punching like this, making the holes on both sides, well, you can't leave. You can't be like, you did great, awesome job, high five, and then go. Because if you do that, they're going to think they're doing it right now, even though they're still doing that circle, right? And we don't want that. We want to make sure that they know they're not doing it right. So we're like, oh man, still not doing it. Keep it closed, right? And you just keep telling them, hey, that's wrong. Well, don't tell them, hey, that's wrong. But like, hey, keep closing it. Keep closing that hand nice and tight. Keep it tight. Because the more you do that, the more it's going to be up in their brain every time they do that punch. So then they won't do it wrong after that. All right? Now, never be blank in any way. Never be blank in any way. You never want to be negative in any way. Never, ever, ever be negative. You guys should know that because, well, I say it a lot. Never be negative. All right? If you're negative, that's going to rub off on them, and then they're going to be negative, and they're going to start coming back up to here where they're only looking at their weaknesses. They're only looking at the things that they think they're not good at. And that's not what we want. We want them to feel like they're doing awesome. We want them to know that they are going to improve. All right? So always look them in the eyes when helping them too. This is very important. If you're not looking them in the eyes when you're trying to help them, well, it looks like you're not paying attention, right? And we need to make sure that we're paying attention. So, leadership thought. What are some examples of correct praise? What are some examples of correct praise? Well, I've kind of gone over a few of them, right? So write down whatever you think correct praise means. That way you guys have your examples on there. And when you put it in your notebook, well, now you got notes on it forever. So you can go back to those and look at them whenever you need help, right? It's a very awesome way of doing it. That's why I do it this way. And so you can always go back to them and look at them for inspiration. But other than that, that's going to be everything for today. So level 3, thank you guys so much for staying on. Everyone, have a good afternoon, and I will see you tonight for fitness testing if you have not done it yet. Bye.